Time to cancel the cabal. With Stephen Roberts. On peoplesinternetradio.com.
Alright everyone, welcome to another Wednesday evening here on peoplesinternetradio.com. I'm Stephen Roberts, and I thought I had hit my recording device earlier, but somehow it got turned off. But this is Cancel the Cabal, and I have a very special guest on tonight. We've had all kinds of technical glitches already, and I hope I haven't lost my guest already, but her video is a little bit sketchy and a little bit frozen. I haven't brought her up yet. I have the Skype muted, but I want to announce to everybody that I have David Shurter on as a helping guest, and he got me in contact with a woman in Australia. Her website is called Pedophiles Down Under, Exposing Australia's VIP Child Abuse Network. And I'll go ahead and bring the Skype up here and say welcome David Shurter and welcome Fiona Ray Barnett.
Hi.
Hello, Fiona. Hi, David.
Hi.
First, explain what the title of your blog means, Pedophiles Down Under, Fiona.
Sure, well, Australia is called Down Under. How's that sound coming through? It doesn't sound too great yet.
No, it's a little bit sketchy, but go ahead and continue. We can hear you pretty good.
Okay. Well, Australia's referred to as Down Under. And, so the name was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Pedophiles Down Under. I was having a little bit of a joke with the name as well, but I thought it would be a little bit catchy and memorable, so I put the site up. I first put it up around the time that I testified to our Federal Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Abuse back in 2013, and I had some mainstream media attention, and I think it was about then that I first put some information up. And then once everything broke into the mainstream, my journalist sister-in-law said, "Get that site down, all that conspiracy stuff, get it down, you're in the mainstream media, you can't have that in Australia." So I pulled it down for a while, and then, when did I put it up? I only put it up a couple of months ago when I was asked to go to Sydney late October and testify, and just somebody was calling a press conference, a child abuse advocacy group, and said, "Will you come down and do a press conference speaking on behalf of the VIP pedophile ring victims in Sydney?" And I said, "Yeah, righto. So when do you want me down?" "Oh, tomorrow." So I had less than 24 hours notice and had to write a speech and everything. So it's funny, just before then I put the website up, I just had this inkling, and we had a politician. The reason I was doing the press conference was because a politician named Bill Heffernan, under parliamentary privilege, got up and said that VIP ring were involving the Prime Minister and high-profile Australians, and the police had had him information because there were certain good police that were sick of it getting nowhere. And I put my site up just before Bill Heffernan did that. I just had this feeling that I need to have my site back up, and just as well I did, because everything went nuts. I went down to Sydney and spoke, and got in the mainstream news and got hammered for it, and so it's had some phenomenal traffic. And more recently, another victim of the same ring came forward, and Gordon Myers, he's the boy who had his penis cut off while in government care by one of these pedophiles in the ring, and he was prostituted to VIP pedophiles, including a number of politicians and prime ministers in Sydney at King's Cross and Darlinghurst, The Wall, and Costello's Hotel, and all these famous places. And he came forward, so I put his. He was somebody leaked his information to me, and I managed to speak to him, and so I put his information up. Well, the article I wrote about him on pedophilesdownunder.com is being receiving 10,000 hits a day. So it looks like people are quite interested. And yeah.
Well, people are quite interested. A lot of people in this world don't know, and they really don't want to believe that pedophilia runs governments and actually runs the world. Pedophilia, child abuse, goes all the way to the highest parts of government and aristocracy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, on my site, I was just going to say I've got a welcome page. I've got some information about me. There's a shot of me and my husband and my eldest daughter. I've got some news articles. I've got links to a lot of articles I wrote. I've been writing them for a few years for Independent Australia, so that's on the links. There's links to mainstream newspaper articles. There's my Candy Girl memoirs. So under that, I've started putting up some chapters like, royal whitewash and ritual abuse in Australia and intermication, relevance intelligence testing and psychology 101, so the state of the helping professions in Australia and what they do with ritual abuse victims when they get hold of them. And just a report there to say I'm certified sane from a therapist. And just some different experiences. And then I've also put up my abuse drawings. Now these caused a bit of a stir when I posted them on Facebook last November, so they're up there, and so you can just have a look and scroll down all the therapy drawings that I did, and I've put them up there, and it's the closest I can get to going back in my time machine and taking photos of what happened to me. So yeah.
Well, explain. I think you happened to. Well, you mentioned to me last night on Skype that your family was some sort of a enigma. You don't really know what your family had to do with the Nazis of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but you do know that your family had some sort of a role, don't you?
Oh, for sure. I grew up. So how I got connected to this pedophile network was, and people have to understand that in Australia, and I'm sure David will say it's the same in the US, that there's different branches. They're just a part of the big crime network. So child trafficking is just a money-making exercise, just like guns trafficking and drug trafficking. So it's just one of the branches. And it involves a lot of people. There's a hierarchy. So down the bottom you've got all your bikies, and they do all the dirty work and what have you. And not all bikies. I'm just saying, there are a lot of bikies are victims of pedophilia and have been victims of this particular VIP ring. So I'm not referring to them. I'm talking about the ones that are involved. And then you've got your different sort of covens, you would call them. You've got a lot of covens are divided up into immigrant groups. So you've got a strong Scottish coven over here. So in Bundaberg in Queensland, there's a big Scottish coven there. And you've got your different, so you've got the Gaelic ones, and then you've got further up the chain, you've got your bloodlines. So you'll have, I don't know, I think Fritz Springmeier correctly identified, he listed about 300 bloodline families. So in those families, those kids are passed down through the generations. Like the perpetrators believe they have a blood right to, for example, my children, and I don't let them have access to them. They've tried. So you've got those families, and then right up the top, I think you've got about, 12 or 13 lines, such as the Rothschilds and the Royals and that sort of thing, and they're revered as demigods within the organisation. So my family is part of those 300 lines that I told you about. So I was bloodline. Now, I don't know, I've met my paternal grandfather in Poland. He was a very decent man. He was a wonderful man. I think he worked for intelligence in Poland. He was on the correct side of the war. And then, but I grew up, I was only 15 when we found him, and so I grew up with this absolute monster called Peter Holozak, or Holovchek in Polish, and they lived at 14 McAllister Avenue, Engadine, which is a suburb in the Sutherland Shire, south of Sydney City. And right next door to just one street away from McAllister Avenue is Engadine Boys Town. Now that's this Australia's first boys' town, run by the Catholic Church, and boys have been abused and abducted and murdered there for many, many decades.
For millennia.
My father was abused at Engadine Boys Town, and I'm second generation. So I was introduced. My father, he, when I was a member of the band, had like killed him in days.
I'm sorry, Fiona? Fiona, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you go ahead and please turn your video off? I guess it's probably just going to be too much on the Skype. Try to save on your bandwidth. The audio is much more important than what the video is, so.
Yeah. Does that improve it?
No. Turn your video off, please.
I thought I had.
Okay, it's off now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just about the and so my grandparents were Helen.
Okay, looks like I'm starting to lose her. David, are you there?
I am, sorry.
Yeah, the Skype is getting a little bit sketchy. We'll just talk until we get her back. She'll be able to come back here pretty quick here, but no, this is the same old story, just a different part of the world, just a different flavor.
Global, and that's what we're starting to see, is that it's global.
Yeah. Are you back now, Fiona?
Yeah, they cut me off. So I was talking about the links between grandparents and nuts or criminals.
Yeah, I can.
My grandmother, not real physical resemblance.
You can't hear what she's saying.
No, it's.
You can't hear me?
Just every other few words. The Skype's being attacked or something.
Oh, it is.
Well, go ahead and try it now, though.
Okay, you right?
Yes.
Oh, that's much better.
Okay. So, I was saying my parents were not. Now, there was another Nazi criminal that moved to Sutherland Shire, Engadine, near.
This is crazy,
and
David.
worked to Leon's Petrascus.
Steve, got to do something.
I'm sorry, David?
We have to do something. You can't hear her.
Fiona, is there a way I can call your landline? Would you like to give me that?
Not over the radio.
No.
I know. I'm just going to send you a message.
Okay.
If I can get it up. Okay.
I have the ability to call landlines on my Skype.
I don't have. Oh yeah, I don't have it hooked up in here. The landline's in another room. I've just sent you my mobile.
I'm sorry, you sent me what?
I just messaged you mobile via Skype.
Oh, okay.
My phone number.
All right. All right. I have to find out what the I got to find out what the calling code is for Australia. I'll be right back here in just a couple minutes, everyone. It's what?
I think it's 61.
61? Okay. Well, I'm gonna put a song on here and take a little break, anyways, and give you a call on the line. See if it's actually got to be a better signal than what we're dealing with right now. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna put a song on quick, everyone, and we'll take a break.
Yeah, sure.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are back after that break there. We've had some lots of issues with Skype and other things, so I just rang Fiona's landline over there in Australia. We're going to do it this way. let's continue on, Fiona. We were trying to talk about. We were going back into your Nazi family background.
Well, we'll just cover what we were saying. It was a bit sketchy, the sound. So I started off saying that I have a website called paedophilesdownunder.com, and that's spelled PEDOPHILES, Down Under. And the reason why I called it Down Under was because, you know, people refer to Australia as Down Under, and it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. So I was saying that, but what I've got on there is I have there's a welcome area, there's a little bit of information about me, there's a picture of me with my husband and my eldest daughter. I have 2 kids. There's some articles there that have gone mainstream, such as Boys Had Penises Cut Off, Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse Here. Then there's my memoirs, Candy Girl. My memoirs are called, and I've got some pages up there about ritual abuse in Australia, about the significance of intelligence testing, which I became an expert in, and then information about psychology and all that sort of thing. And then I put up my abuse drawings, which people find quite popular. So I actually have an art degree, and so even if I draw a cartoon, you can at least see what's going on in the drawings. So I've got some drawings up there that people can look at, and there's some links to the articles I wrote on Independent Australia, which is a online news journal over here. So there's lots of blogs and lots of articles, and you know, there's some information about Gordon Myers, who's another victim of the VIP child trafficking network in Australia, and his story's just gone mainstream, and it's continuing. He's being interviewed now by lots of media, and it went international, and he's one of the original Wood Royal Commission victims from the 1990s. So this is our second Royal Commission into child abuse that we're having in Australia, and still they're doing nothing. So that's that background that I was trying to cover when the sound went nuts. So basically, as an intro to me, I'm 46. As I said, I've got 2 kids. I've been married to the same bloke for more than 20 years, and we live near the southern end of the Gold Coast on the eastern coast of Australia. So we're right on the border of the Queensland, New South Wales states, and you know, as my background, I did lots of university in between trying to recover from all this abuse, and so I studied lots of education, gifted education, art, and 6 years of psychology, and for a while I worked as a parole officer, and I did bits and pieces. So yeah, that's my background, and then we were trying to talk about the links between, you know, how I ended up in the pedophile ring network. Well, my paternal grandparents, Peter and Helen Holozak, or Holowczyk in Polish. Peter they were both Nazi war criminals. Like thousands of Nazi war criminals, they sought refuge in Australia. And when they came over here, they started abusing kids and doing what Nazis did back there. So these are people who like to turn children into lampshades in the death camps, and they didn't stop what they did. They like to rape. They like to teach German shepherds to rape the Jewish girls. They got off on, you know, they had access to as much filthy, perverted sexual activity as anyone could get. And people don't realise that the majority of Nazi war criminals are actually Slavic. They're not all German. And so they're from, you know, Hungary and Lithuania and Poland and all those areas. And yeah, they're the ones who absolutely flooded into Australia, especially Sydney and the Wollongong area and the Sutherland Shire area.
A lot of them are Jewish too.
Sorry?
I said a lot of them are Jewish too. A lot of Jewish war criminals.
Well, the ones I dealt with, I can tell you now, not a Jew was welcome in the pedophile ring that runs this country. They hate Jews. So I was raised to hate Jews by my paternal grandparents. Although I didn't, I used to think, what are Jews? What did they do wrong, you know? No, they would murder Jews at their first chance, and they didn't like black people either. They didn't like Asian people. That's the group, that's the neo-Nazi group that I was raised by. I can tell you now, there's no way a Jew wouldn't set in the door. So they basically, now another person who was part of this network was Dr. Leonis Petrauskas. Now, he was a Lithuanian Nazi doctor. I have his papers to prove it. They're on my websites, Fiona, Barnett, and Pedophiles Down Under Facebook pages. So I have two Pedophiles Down Under sites. One is a WordPress site, so it's pedophilesdownunder.com, and the other one is a Facebook site, which is just Pedophiles Down Under. And then you've got mine Facebook site, which is Fiona Barnett, my personal site. So, and on there, I've put up Leonis Petrauskas' Nazi war papers. So there's no disputing it. These are documents, and I've got his passport when he came into Australia. I've got photos of that. They were willingly handed over by his family to somebody who handed the photos to me. So basically, Leonis Petrauskas was the head Luciferian who of Engadine Boys Town. Engadine Boys Town was Australia's first boys home, run by the Catholic Pedo Church, and it was one street away from my grandparents' Engadine home at 14 McAllister Avenue. So they're in the same block. And then not far from Engadine Boys Town is Holsworthy Army Base, Australia's main military base. And then right next door to Holsworthy Army Base is Lucas Heights Nuclear Reactor, which is CIA built and run. And it is directly linked to Pine Gap, which is a CIA/USA military facility centred right in the middle of Australia, near Alice Springs. So those are the physical links. And then the people who are linked to all these people, so my grandparents, or step-grandparents, handed me over to this ring from my earliest memory. So, I had a flashback to the age of 3. I'd been abused by Anthony Kidman, Dr. Anthony Kidman. He was a biochemist and psychologist. He was Nicole Kidman, the movie actress's father. He was suicided about less than 2 months after I reported his abuse of me to the authorities, and I was told that he was, committed suicide directly in relation to my report. Now, he was one of the contacts. So he was friends with Leonis Petrauskas. They went to university at Sydney University at the same time. They worked with various, Australian Secret Service organisations. My researchers have found all the links between all these people. There's no denying it. They were linked to Kim Beazley Sr., who was a politician. He was Prime Minister Gough Whitlam's Federal Education Minister. Kim Beazley Sr. was a Luciferian. Gough Whitlam was not. He was just a pedo. Kim Beazley Sr. Was in charge of child sex trafficking and coordinated the international trafficking, and through that network I was trafficked to Canberra, to Parliament House, to an orgy attended by Gough Whitlam and his gay lover, John Kerr, who was the Governor General, and also there was what was he? He was a big magistrate. I always forget his name, but anyway, I'll remember it later. Lionel Murphy. So they were at this party. There's 3 people I remember. And also I was trafficked to Bohemian Grove from Sydney Airport, and so I was abused at Fairbairn International Airport in Canberra, which is where Air Force One would fly into if any dignitaries were visiting, your president was visiting Australia. Well, Richard Nixon, after he was disgraced and thrown out of office, he was over here, and I was sexually assaulted by President Richard Nixon in the back of a US military airplane at Fairbairn Air Force Base, and then that was 5, and then after that, down the track, he recommended I be trafficked to Bohemian Grove for the pedo parties that are conducted at Bohemian Grove, and that's all they do there. That's all it is. It's just a big pedophile network party. And I was sexually assaulted by Richard Nixon's good friend, Reverend Billy Graham. So that's just an overview of the network and the connections. So there's lots of branches to this network. Child sex trafficking is just one money-making branch. You also have arms or guns trafficking, and you have drug trafficking. And there's a hierarchy, and right down the bottom you have some of the bikie groups are involved. And then right at the top you have you have your elite and you have your bloodliners, which is around the world there's about 300 families, and their offspring are, automatically assumed into the pedophile network, and they go on to be abusers themselves, a lot of them, or they go on to go mad or commit suicide, or they're suicided if they don't conform. And they're the ones who run Australia.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're the ones who run the States.
Well, Fiona, two questions. Well, actually, one statement. I'm sorry. The jury's out on whether Anthony Kidman killed himself or whatever. That could easily have been faked. His death could have been faked. Who knows? But
yes, his death
dead.
could be faked. But I can tell you what I've heard. Basically, I know there were other complaints made about him to the health board in New South Wales. My therapist, when she rang up, because she was the one who encouraged me to notify against him, when she spoke to them, I wasn't the first. Now, the other thing was, I was asked on the day of Anthony Kidman's death, on his funeral, the day of Anthony Kidman's funeral, I had a famous magazine come to my house to interview me. Now, that journalist and the photographer and the makeup people from Woman's Day, so her name was Jonica Bray and she's now Jonica Williams, she had already heard something about Tony Kidman, and she came up to do the story, and we were basically followed around by Nicole Kidman hired some security, and they admitted when my family, my husband and the journalist and the photographer went over and spoke to the security, they admitted they'd been hired by Nicole Kidman to keep an eye on me. They didn't want me flying down. They thought I was getting on a plane and flying to Sydney, causing a scene at the, the funeral. But I'll tell you now, the leak was, Nicole Kidman's security has a security team in Sydney, and one member of her security team became a paparazzi, but he was still in contact with the other security team members. And they all betrayed Nicole because they were leaking to the media what was going on behind closed doors. And we were told through that paparazzi, through the security team, that immediately after I made my notification, Anthony Kidman was placed on suicide watch. And the paparazzi in Sydney believed that he suicided, or I say was suicided, is a direct result of my complaint against him. Now, I know from having been raised in this ring and having attended meetings in this ring, because you've got to remember I was bloodline, therefore I was expected and being trained up to become a perpetrator when I was older. So I was privy to their discussions, and nothing was withheld from me. So I know from their meetings just how it looks when somebody is basically told you must suicide or you must whatever. So I personally believe, from what I observed, that he's dead. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it's possible. Yes, that he could have gone into hiding. I mean, they had enough money. Nicole's got enough money and whatever, to have put him in hiding. But from the reaction that I saw and the looks on the people's face at the funeral, and they were angry, and I know they were angry at me because of his death. So I really believe, and the first reports were that he jumped off the balcony in Singapore at the hotel that Antonia, his daughter, owned. So, and next thing, Antonia Kidman's ex-husband, mysteriously drops dead in America. I mean, from a heart attack at a young age when he's super fit, Yeah, I don't know. The jury can be out, but I'm fairly convinced he's dead.
Sure. Why did you decide to wait so long to come out and expose these types of things?
Oh, I've been exposing this for years. I've tried for decades. I wrote a book. And submitted it to, 3 companies in 1993 and about it all, and it nearly got published. Albatross Books in Sutherland they held on to it for 9 months, told me your writing is so good that we only da-da-da-da. And then something broke. It was called the Demidonko scandal, and it was a story a little bit like mine, but not the ritual side of things. And it was someone written a fictitious book, but somebody had said it was a true story, and then there was a scandal over it, and then Albatross Books wouldn't publish my book at the last moment. But then, straight after they didn't publish my book, the Wood Royal Commission broke, which was a commission sparked by complaints about the very pedophile ring in Sydney that I spoke about. that involve judges and lawyers and doctors and celebrities and politicians and prime ministers and all this sort of stuff. So that's breaking in the press now again, because I've worked so hard to get it in the press. Gordon Myers' story. He's one of the original Wood Royal Commission victims, and
yeah.
So I've been trying. I mean, what more could I have done? I mean, there was no internet back in the 90s.
Yes,
back in the
absolutely.
early 90s. There was no internet. No one even believed that incest existed in Australia before the Wood Royal Commission broke in 1996. Never mind ritual abuse. They thought that was crazy. But most still do in Australia. We're 50 years behind, America. And in terms of what we accept, and our therapy is 50 years behind. People just still being treated like one flew over the cuckoo's nest over here. So, I've been trying. I mean, you've never seen anyone try. So I've been squealing out the list of people that I reported to, police and health practitioners. I've been reporting to health practitioners since I started going to therapists, over 20 years ago. I mean, and people didn't do what they were supposed to do, which was mandatory report. So, and I told police, I've been in so many times and I would come out at times when it would break in the press, and I would see the name of an officer, and I thought, oh, well, he's probably not involved, so I'll try. But if go and read about Gordon Myers. He's 50. He's from the same ring. He's an Aboriginal Australian. He's from the stolen generation. He was nicked because he's Aboriginal, and then they shoved him in these homes. They prostituted him from the age of 12 to all these VIP pedos in Sydney, at the Wall in Darlinghurst and at King's Cross and at Costello's, and all the mafia bosses and that in Australia, in Sydney, owned all those establishments and operated them. Now, go and look at all this paperwork that I've put up on my site and on, Give Gordon's Truck Back, a Facebook site dedicated to Gordon, and all the sites I've made, pedophilesdownunder.com and Pedophiles Down Under Facebook and Fiona Barnett Facebook. Go and have a look at all these 100+ pages of paperwork and his attempts over the many, many years to get his story out. We try. It gets blocked. That guy went to testify at the original Wood Royal Commission in 1997, and the New South Wales police met him at the door and threatened him, said, you go in there, you don't come out alive. I mean, and then locked him up in prison for something he hadn't done. Now, what more can we do? We're dodging bullets. We run around. I've been chased around the country. I've been chased by people, in four-wheel drives for the last 20 years. I went to Sydney to tell the police my story on the 2nd to 3rd of November, just gone, and I had what looked like bloody ASIO following me around, chasing me around like Jason Bourne. I was running through the back streets of Sydney, and I had two very, very good witnesses to what happened that day, and I've, spoken about it before. I've had death threats, I've had dead chopped up animals left on my doorstep, I've come home to my animals being chopped up and scattered all over my yard, I've had, it's just horrendous, and it goes on and on and on. I live under this pressure, and I have done so all my life. And people say, oh, why didn't you speak up? Oh, for goodness sake, come and live for 5 minutes in my shoes and see how you like it. And then go and, be informed, and then question why I haven't broken into the mainstream media before now.
Yeah,
it's absurd.
Yeah. Well,
Main Sydney Morning Herald, our most respected paper, had some of these pedos working in the Sydney Morning Herald. I've got witnesses to that. And the Sydney Morning Herald would not print the Wood Royal Commission material. Most recently, A Current Affair wouldn't do Gordon Myers' story. They're frightened. Why? Because Kerry Packer was a pedophile and involved. He owns half Australia's media, then the Murdochs own the other half. I mean, and, how do you get past a story like this past the people who are involved?
Yes,
when they
absolutely
own the
so.
media?
Absolutely so.
Yeah.
It's so hard for anybody that blows the whistle, whether it's a survivor of child abuse or somebody that's whistleblowing on a corporation or a government, or they just don't want that type of word out. But tell me, Fiona,
No.
were you under some sort of mind control, like MK Ultra or something very, very similar to it?
Okay, MK Ultra certainly came into Australia. Okay, now I'll just bring it up. I'll give you an example. MK Ultra, Anthony Kidman was directly part of MK Ultra, and so was I was originally abused from the age of 5 by John Gittinger, who was a CIA US military psychologist, and he was an evil genius. He rewrote the IQ tests, and how you use them. And he tested me at age 5 at Holsworthy Army Base. And I saw him at Lucas Heights Nuclear Reactor. Those facilities have underground, 6 to 7 story underground buildings beneath them, okay, where they do all their dirty work. And the Australian government had a joint project with the USA government, and that was called the Jason Project. And I was recruited at age 5 into this joint USA-Australian military, project. And it was a super soldier project. So it was looking at genetically enhancing the characteristics of a soldier, to make them a better soldier, basically. So, I was recruited for that.
Is that who you're?
So indeed, and that was part of my culture. That was my culture.
Is that who your handler was?
Sorry.
Sorry, Fiona. Is that who your handler was?
Yes, Gittinger was my original handler. He was my programmer to begin with.
Okay.
So Gittinger used, yeah. So I'll say, I've just said in a couple of my articles, The Relevance of Intelligence, for example, I've written Project McCulture extended to Australia. For example, McCulture's sub-project number 84 was conducted at Sydney University in 1960 under CIA's Dr. Martin Orne, O-R-N-E. The resultant research project was titled Social Control in the Psychological Experiment, Antisocial Behaviour and Hypnosis. Now, as part of that project, okay, and I talk about it more in Psychology 101. As part of that project, they were showing people how to, they were having people be subjected to hypnosis, and then those people under hypnosis, after being hypnotised, were willing to electrically shock people and, harm people and do things they wouldn't normally do if they hadn't been hypnotised. So, yes, McCulture did come to Australia. They also went to Chelmsford Hospital, private hospital, where they, a monster named Dr. Harry Bailey murdered people and electrocuted people and raped women while they were in deep sleep therapy, and that's related to Cameron Ewing, over in Canada, and that project. And so these are the people that conducted the McCulture experiments in Australia, and Anthony Kidman was involved in that, and so was Dr. Leonis Petruskas. They were McCulture scientists or doctors or, researchers or practitioners. So I was definitely taken, as part of that project, and they subjected me at Holsworthy Army Base and Lucas Heights Nuclear Reactor. They subjected me to extensive testing, cognitive testing, testing for my physical endurance. I was phenomenally strong. I was a very, very fit child and a very strong child and very healthy when I was born. And I was also Aryan. I was blue-eyed blonde, and they picked me because of that. So I was what they called package deal. I was labelled a creative genius. I'm a brilliant painter. I was a brilliant musician, etc. So they picked me on that basis as well. And they picked me because they IQ tested me on the Stanford Binet LM, and I tested 180 IQ, and I tested 200 of visual spatial processing, and it's the visual spatial processing index that Gittinger was most interested in, and my creativity. And based on all of that testing, then they call you a chosen one. Okay, it's ridiculous, but you don't want to be chosen for this garbage because it was awful. But they had a pool of children. They also went looking for children in the schooling system. So they did a lot of testing in the education department in New South Wales, did in Sydney back then, and they found all these high IQ kids around the place, and they tested everywhere. And then they got a pool of these kids. Then they tested further testing, and they chose me out of a pool of those, chosen ones. So that's how I ended up being, picked for this horrendous role. And they subjected me to unethical hypnosis, to electrocution with using cattle prods and drugs. They had a very sophisticated understanding of drugs. What we know about drugs is nothing compared to what the military know. And cognitive assessments, so they would hook me up to a brain scan, and they'd be observing, as they tortured me and did these things, they'd be observing the changes to my alpha waves and so forth. And once they saw some sort of pattern in my brain, they would go, okay, we've done it, we've got it, okay, move on to the next thing. And so what they were doing was basically shutting down certain neural pathways and artificially forcing other neural pathways to open. And that is how they artificially induce the human body's natural ability to dissociate under trauma. So when you are in a car accident and when you go through the windscreen, the brain has a natural ability to shut down because it's too big for you to handle. So the brain actually dissociates. So it shuts down, creates a wall in your brain, and you can't ever remember going through the windscreen. You might remember just before the incident, you might remember being carried off in the ambulance, but your brain will not let you remember going through the windscreen. And that is what the Nazis set about trying to understand and artificially reproduce using trauma. And that is what, as you know, the Nazis went on to become the CIA, and the Nazi scientists went on to become NASA, and then they infiltrated Australia and our military. And this is the Nazi, and that is what the Culture Project was. It was simply an extension of what Hitler and his cronies started to do in Nazi Germany. So yes, I was a victim of the Culture Project. Yes.
So Fiona, how old were you when you first recall these things happening to you?
I first recall, well, Anthony Kidman did the preparation for getting her coming over. I had a flashback to when I was 3 and in Anthony Kidman's office, and he was already starting to torture and stuff like that at age 3. Now, my mother can concur that my personality changed at age 3. I came home from my grandparents' visit. I'd go there for, the holidays or whatever. And I came home, she said, and I never saw my daughter again. So my personality completely changed at age 3, and it was after Anthony Kidman got to me. So that's the first memory I have of Kidman at age 3. But before that, I was first sexually abused, and I had memories of that. I was first left alone at my grandparents' home at Engadine when my brother was born, and I was not even 2. And I also was a flower girl at a wedding of Helen Holozak's friends, and we had photos and everything of me at 1, 20 months of age, walking down the aisle, as the flower girl. So, and I was left alone then. So I was sexually assaulted then, and I've had flashbacks and just memories, to being abused by Peter Holozak when I was, my earliest memories. Yeah.
There's a question in the chat room, Fiona. I think you spoke a little bit about this last night. Cathy O'Brien. You know of Cathy O'Brien. I guess something also included her with MK Ultra and her child. You want to talk about Cathy O'Brien?
Yeah, okay. I've got something. I believe Cathy O'Brien is a genuine victim, and she's DID. But I believe that Mark Phillips is a CIA operative. He is a programmer, and he is her handler. I believe that whole, the whole Cathy O'Brien, Mark Phillips unit is a fake, and I believe they were established to undermine and discredit and cloud the real victim, which is Bryce Taylor, who wrote Thanks for the Memories. She is the real victim, and I know that Bryce Taylor came under attack from Mark Phillips. So Mark Phillips is a fake and a scammer, and he's a piece of garbage, and do not believe anything that man says.
Well, in any kind of a movement, whether it's a whistleblowing, exposing movement, or the communist movement, or whatever it happens to be, if you want to control it, you have to co-opt it, and get on the inside and try to manipulate it.
Yeah, we've got it over here. I actually had a therapist who turned out to be DID, and her partner is her handler, and she really pressured me to go to South Australia to visit this piece of garbage down there, a military programmer, and his name's David Thompson, and he's from Watchman Ministries. David and Raylene, do not go near David Thompson. He's a military programmer. He worked for the Australian military. He's a reprogrammer. He was trying to get to what you call the access codes, and he was disgusting. After 3 days of buttering me up, he started raising his voice at me, abusing me verbally, asking me inappropriate questions, saying that if you were genuine, you couldn't enjoy sex, you should be frigid. And it was disgusting what he did to me. And I had to really manoeuvre to get out of South Australia alive after that man had me up in the Adelaide Hills alone. And, he's a piece of filth. So you've got these infiltrators. He's been supposedly working, specialising in DID for 20 years and ritual abuse and all this sort of stuff. And he's a fake. And in fact, if anyone advertises that they're in this, I don't believe them. I'm very sceptical. I believe people like Dr. Raina Michelson, PhD psychologist, Young Australian of the Year 2005 for community service. Now, she took on the Australian child trafficking ring, and her life was threatened, her family's lives were threatened, they were broken into. She was an organisation called the OTO down there, successfully, argued that, she was, I don't know, some organisation posted something and they were being religiously discriminated against, because they were into, I don't know, some sort of, occult religion or whatever they're into. And, she was hammered. Now that she came up and she exposed the Victorian Police involved in pedo ring, the Education Department, Channel 10 over here were making kiddie porn on the side, all this stuff. And I tell you what, this is what happens to people who are genuine, okay? They hammered her and she had to go into hiding in Darwin for 7 years, all right? So that, a real victim, a real helper, a real advocate, because they don't survive, the way that these other people do and brag about. And they don't advertise. They don't go around saying, hey, victims, come to me. Are you serious? It wouldn't last 5 minutes. People get death threats. They're found murdered. They're, like me, chased around the country. No, a real victim or advocate because they're under threat.
Yes, absolutely. Mark is her handler, you said. Mark is Cathy's handler? Is that her part?
That's obvious. When you examine their interaction and read their micro facial expressions, which is not hard to do when you've got a visual spatial IQ of 200, he's a fake.
I think that's her partner also, isn't it?
Mark Phillip. Yeah, it's her partner. He left his wife for her. What kind of moral fortitude has he got? No, you know them by their fruits.
Yeah.
You know them.
Well, you mentioned Bohemian Grove too. You mentioned President Nixon as being a molester with you. You also mentioned Billy Graham as being a molester of you. Didn't you also mention?
Billy Graham. Billy Graham likes to drug kids and rape them when they're drugged.
Didn't you also mention, Bob Hope? That wasn't you. That was someone else. You said, right?
No, I didn't mention Bob Hope. No, I said Bob Hawke, our Prime Minister.
Bob Hawke. Okay, I'm sorry.
Not Bob Hope. No, I know that other people have mentioned Bob Hope, and I know he was a pedo, but that's not who I mentioned. I mentioned Ted Turner. He abused me at Disneyland when they closed the park of a night time and they have pedo parties at Disneyland and Disney World because Walt Disney was a pedophile as well.
Yes. Well, I think everybody knows that, but Ted Turner of the CNN, Ted Turner?
Yeah, I thought he was a politician when I first talked about him. I don't know much about him. I just know his face, and I knew his wife was Jane Fonda. She's a piece of idiot right there. But
there's a lot
I just knew. I knew him as. I couldn't remember his last name. I know his name, Ted Turner. Someone, said, "Oh, Fiona, it's Turner," and I went, "Yeah, that's him." So I thought he was in politics, and she was acting like First Lady or something. But I didn't realise he was CNN's, creator. So there goes getting anything on CNN.
Yeah, exactly. Who is Bert Newton, and who is his son?
Bert Newton is alive, and he's been named by lots and lots of victims. And I know he was on the original list of. Anyway, I won't say that. But he was on the Wood Royal Commission list, and he is an entertainer, and he was very good friends with Graham Kennedy, another pedophile. And Bert Newton has been named by the Wood Royal Commission boys. And he's on the list that Bill Heffernan, the politician, has as a list of offenders.
Okay, some of these names
so
I don't...
he's a TV entertainer. TV entertainer, had his own variety show.
Is he? Okay.
From way back since black and white TV.
All right. In Australia?
Yeah. And there's a whole host of perpetrators here. A big one is Bob Carr. He's a politician who liked to pick up boys from the wall at Darlinghurst, and he had sex with boys at Costello's in King's Cross and that sort of thing. Now he is on Bill Heffernan list, and he is a piece of garbage. He along with Kim Beazley Senior's son, Kim Beazley Jr., right, who's another politician, Bob Carr and Kim Beazley Jr. went to Bohemian Grove in 2012 on Australian taxpayers' money. Now, what the hell were they doing over there?
Hard telling.
You know, because I know what I saw. Yeah. What I saw over there was just men. I didn't see any women. I saw men having sex with each other. I saw men raping children. I saw a scene where they were dressed in black Ku Klux Klan style robes with the real pointy hats. You have a different robe over there for your rituals. And I saw them murder a young woman hung up on a meat hook. I saw, I went into a pink bubble room and I was dressed as Shirley Temple, all pink. I was dressed as Candy Girl was my name. And, I was given a pink drink by Billy Graham, and he said, my good friend Richard, told me you like to please men and do what they say and all this sort of stuff, and he drugged me and raped me. And, I was dressed up as a teddy bear and made to run around the redwood forest with a bunch of other kids while they creepily played in the dark on loudspeakers, Teddy Bear's Picnic, if you go down in the woods today, freaked the hell out of us little kids and ran around hiding there. These are the things I saw at Bohemian Grove, and that Alex Jones, someone gave him footage. They took footage at Bohemian Grove, and
yes.
They filmed, and this is a fact, a bunch of world leaders, men, dressed in robes, standing around a giant statue of Moloch, whom I've seen people murdered to over here, to their god Moloch, and they said they were pretending to burn a man alive, an effigy, just a mock satanic ritual. Well, I don't like to call it satanic because that word was never used when I was young, Satan. We said Luciferian. But, this Luciferian ritual that I've seen practiced over here, people should just question, why are politicians going to Bohemian Grove dressing up as, Luciferians and pretending to sacrifice a human to an ancient deity? Hello? That alone should raise people's eyebrows.
Yeah. Well, Fiona, I think Alex Jones was actually let in. I think he's part of the system. I think he's.
I've heard that too. But despite that, there is video footage that anyone can access on the internet.
Yeah, it's.
I know. I'm not a big fan, but there's video evidence, and I'm referring to that film footage that was taken at Bohemian Grove.
Yes, right.
So that alone, people should go, what the hell? What the hell is going on there?
Yeah, yeah.
There's two gates at Bohemian Grove, and if you get past the first gate, you get anywhere near the second gate, they'll shoot you dead. So how the hell?
Yeah, I know. I agree.
I mean, it didn't make any sense to me.
I know. Look, I agree with you. I know.
And what
That's
Fiona,
obvious.
being a survivor, the only way that real survivors are struggling hard. I mean, what Fiona said, I mean, when you hear that, people are leaving you dead animals, that's what ruined my relationship of 20 years. Because we were having dead animals left in our yard, our cars were trashed, I was getting death threats constantly. We had I kept getting something that sounded like a heart monitor, and my partner told me, we're stuck on where someone just has we must be stuck in a computer loop for someone. And so I called the telephone company and said, what is this number? And the number was coming from a hospital room in a hospital 6 blocks from our house. And all it was a heart monitor. That's all they were playing was a heart monitor. And I got it came through 20 times. So I get asked all the time, why didn't you come forward as a kid? I have been at this for 10 years as an adult and can't get anyone to listen to me. What the hell was I going to do when I was a kid? Let alone survive, because if you tell as a kid, you're dead. You're dead.
You're dead. You're dead, sweetie. Yep.
And the only reason why the only reason I'm alive right now is because I didn't do this until Alan Baer was dead. And Alan Baer was heavily involved in Franklin. He's one of the people they talk about in Conspiracy of Silence, which is a video on YouTube that was supposed to go on television. And the Republican Party paid $500,000 to the Discovery Channel to keep it from going on the day it was supposed to air. And so they canceled the show. And so, people, it's frustrating because you get people, oh, well, why didn't you come forward sooner? Well, what the hell was I supposed to do? What is any survivor? And people listen to Fiona and they listen to me, but let me tell you, it's every survivor, every one they do this to.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yep.
And Australia, well, there's quite a few countries that are really, really big into this. Australia's one. Saudi Arabia is one. Israel is one. The Netherlands.
Yeah.
It's all global. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And the places that not having problems with, they're taking the kids from there.
Sure. And they're also taking, they're also doing a lot of the atrocities over there because, let's just face it, Australia and Saudi Arabia are vast, just huge areas of uninhabited areas, and they can bury bodies under the sand and never be found.
They don't bury bodies.
They don't bury. The bodies are either burnt or they're fed to dogs or dissolved in acid. They don't bury bodies. They don't leave any evidence.
They don't leave any evidence. There's never any evidence. And from what I understand now,
never evidence.
They have portable crematoriums now.
Well, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
And Fiona mentioned Rupert Murdoch owning half of Australia's media.
Media, yeah.
Let me just point out that Rupert Murdoch got busted in the UK for spying on all of their celebrities.
Yeah.
So how is it he spied on every celebrity, and yet the crap about Jimmy Savile didn't come out till after he was dead? They didn't know. They knew everything. They knew what every survivor, they knew the bowel movements of every single celebrity in the UK, but they didn't know about Jimmy Savile.
Right. Well, no, they knew about it just like they knew about Jerry Sandusky over here in America. They knew about that scandal from day one.
In Australia, right? A magazine.
Wait a minute, Fiona.
Yeah.
Jerry Sandusky.
Yeah.
Let me point out about Jerry Sandusky. First of all, Ray Griccar was a prosecuting attorney who was investigating Jerry Sandusky, Penn State, and the Second Mile High Club. He disappeared 4 years before this hit.
Yeah.
He disappeared with his hard drive from his laptop.
Yeah.
Not his laptop, just the hard drive from his laptop.
Yep.
And they were saying that kids were being prostituted out to elite people in the Second Mile High Club.
Yeah.
But the minute Jerry Sandusky got busted, everything got dropped. We haven't heard one word about Second Mile High Club.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's always a fall guy. There's always a fall guy, whether it's Anthony Kidman or Jerry Sandusky or Jimmy Savile or any other so-called gatherer. There is always a fall guy, and
well, there's a rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think
there's a code? There's a few codes by which they live, and one is do what thou will.
Yeah.
Just don't get caught.
Yes. It's also alleged that. I'm sorry. It's also alleged that the I can't remember his name now. It might come to me, or I'll search it, or somebody will search it and put it in the chat room for me. But The guy that was caught back in the mid-'70s in New York, he was the serial killer. I think they called
yes,
I think they called him
Sam?
the Son of Sam killer. Yes, Sam Berkowitz.
Yeah.
Sam Berkowitz. That was his name. He reported to somebody in a interview that he was a gatherer for a top elite group. He would go and gather the kids. I think he explained that he did kill a few of them, but he didn't kill the vast majority of them. This big ring over there in New York did, and he was the fall guy for it.
Well, we saw that in Florida when they found the finders, the two people who were involved with the finders who suddenly disappeared, who had 6 kids they couldn't explain, and the kids had no idea who they were or where they came from.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I believe my family was involved with that because they were living 30 miles. My oldest sister was living 30 miles away from there.
Say, Fiona, I got a question for you. It's do you think it's a little bit ironic that Stanley Kubrick, last movie he made was Eyes Wide Shut, had Nicole Kidman in it?
There was he never got to edit that because he put more in there than he was supposed to.
Yeah, he wasn't going to edit it.
There was a lot more in there that never made it to the final cut.
Yes, it did. Some of those...
I thought that was Nicole Kidman's most convincing acting I've ever seen because I think she was playing herself.
It could have been. Could have been. But
they're now having... Hollywood is getting ready to explode because... Corey Feldman just wrote a book
about Corey Haim. Yeah.
Corey Haim saying that Charlie Sheen, who's been busy giving everybody AIDS, raped Corey Haim, and that's who Corey Haim ended up. Corey Haim is just men on this don't ever make it.
Yeah.
Women get DID, men just self-destruct. They kill themselves. That's what happens.
I know. That's why I put myself out for the Wood Royal Commission boys, who were taken, from age 6 and all this sort of thing and thrown in what was essentially kids' prison and prostituted out, and then they thrown in jail on fabricated charges thereafter if ever they spoke. I thought I had it bad. Look, we're all equipped for whatever's thrown at us in life. And with these men, I came to the conclusion over the last few weeks, having dealt with all these victims coming forward from the Wood Royal Commission, that it's harder for men. I really conclude that as a female victim now. It's harder for men, especially in Australian society. It's a very macho society, very emotionally repressed society, especially for men. And men aren't allowed to talk about their feelings about anything, never mind this. And they have been so denied and discriminated against as victims, denied health services, denied the opportunity to talk about this, and they just shoot themselves, or they go and shoot everyone else, or they shoot their families, shoot their kids, they commit violent crimes and end up in prison. I mean,
I have a theory about that. I have a theory about that, being a male myself and having gone through this. We live in a culture, as sick as this is, we live in a culture where women just expect to be raped. But men who get raped, it hits your masculinity, it hits the very foundation of who you are so hard that you can't deal with it. You can't deal with it, It's the only reason why I think I survived is because I identified as gay. So there was a feminine side to me, not that I've been okay with it, because I'm certainly not okay with it, but we're in a society now that, women just kind of think, oh, well, I got raped, and it hurts them. But the global society right now just says, oh, well, you're women, you should expect that. And men shouldn't. Not saying that that's right. Yeah. Not saying that it's right at all, and not saying
but it's an extra variable, David. I know what you're getting at. There's an extra variable there where, it's it's one thing to be raped by someone of the opposite sex. It's another thing to be assaulted by someone of the same sex.
Yes, it is.
And it is different. It's different.
Let alone, and we're not just talking rape. We're not just talking one guy rapes one kid. We're talking like Hampstead. We had and want to bring up the Hampstead case because
it's a genuine case. I want to say it's a genuine case. I know it is. I know someone working on it.
Anyone who watches the videos of those kids at their young age, anyone who's a parent who's had to teach their kids lines of a play knows how grueling it can be. And these kids are so fluent and they talk about concepts they couldn't possibly understand if they hadn't gone through it. But what are they doing with the Hampstead case? What are they doing with the Hampstead case? Exactly what they always do. They're attacking the mother who came forward and called the police.
Yeah.
They attack. So, and there's David. Yeah. And there's a good point there. When people say, why didn't you tell someone when you were little, when you're a kid? Well, those kids flippin' did, people. They came out, they told you on video, and what do people do? They discredit the mother.
Call
and
them
they believe
liars.
any old crap mainstream press throw at them. They believe any old garbage that, the internet trolls, come up with, and that the pedophile police over there that, place those children back with their abusive father. People believe it.
Yeah.
And this is why. So then you've got kids coming forward. What does anyone do about it?
Yeah, hang on a second, Fiona. Hang on a second, David. David, I got to tell you, too, that...
Stephen, let's just look at the 80s in America that had the same kind of accusations that we now know for sure came out in the UK at the same time. And what did we do in America? We were convinced that all the thousands of parents that were coming forward, because McMartin was one of 7 in one area, and there was all over the nation. And what did we come down with? Every one of those parents was seeing a therapist. And for some reason, our therapy community decided that they wanted to create a moral panic. Every therapist in America wanted to create a moral panic. So all of these kids that were coming home with STDs and all of this other stuff, they were all lying because they were being convinced that this was happening, and they were getting false memories put in their head by therapists.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands.
Oh, that's my favourite, David. David, they're still teaching that crap in Australian universities. I was thrown out of Bond University because I spoke up against things like that. I was in forensic psychology, 2 subjects to go, and they just hammered me. And I had good grades and great references and everything. Now, I was taught at Bond University by the forensic psychology lecturers that the McMartin preschool case was just, mass hysteria, and it was all because, a therapist had, inappropriate questioning methods. I mean, what the hell? They had videos of the tunnels being bulldozed. I mean, I saw it all on television, on the news.
The longest and most costly court case in America. And nobody got told about those tunnels until after it was all over. And they not only found dead animals in those tunnels, but satanic relics. So how is it that the most costly and the longest trial of its time in America, and they didn't know about those tunnels? It was left out. On purpose, it was left out.
Okay, David. David and Fiona, hang on a second here. I got to tell you, for about the last 3 or 4 minutes now that we've been talking, some of the things that we've been mentioning, they've actually got some kind of an attack on my system, and my live stream is frozen right now. I'm virtually sure that nobody is hearing what I'm saying on the live stream, but the radio stream is good, and I am taping all of this anyway, so...
put it up. That's all right. They can infiltrate. They can do what they want. They're not going to stop the truth. Ultimately, they will not stop the truth being heard. And it's going to take victims like me and David, who absolutely resist their attacks. I've lost everything. I've lost financially. I have nothing left. The bank owns our house. We have no pennies. I've lost my reputation. I've lost my chosen profession over and over again because so many organisations are infiltrated by these pedophiles, and and I won't compromise wherever I go. I won't turn a blind eye when I see something going on, and this is what it takes. And which is interesting. We get onto something which David and I were chatting about, which is these victims that expect us to do it all for them. And I don't mind doing it when someone's genuine and they're fragile, but what happens afterwards, and this is happening now, certain victims, for example, are being employed by the government over here to attack me and to threaten to sue me, or to here they are, they've gone public with their names and they've emailed everybody and they've told everyone on Facebook, but as soon as I mention someone's name on the Facebook page or whatever, I'm going to sue you. They're trying to set me up, and and there are fake victims coming forward. There's 60 Minutes is apparently interviewing a fake victim because all the people who are witnesses to the same time, date, place said this guy is fake, the one that 60 Minutes is interviewing, and this particular victim, is trying to set me up. I'm being attacked by 60 Minutes Australia. I'm being sent abusive emails. 60 Minutes Australia is angry because I have actually exposed the true VIP pedophile ring. 60 Minutes Australia reckons they're investigating and interviewing, victims of this, VIP pedophile ring. Well, I don't. There's not one that has come forward to me that's been interviewed by 60 Minutes or spoken to them, And 60 Minutes rejected my story, and yet I'm the most vocal VIP pedophile ring victim in Australia, and the one who's had the most, been most believed, been in the press the most, been in mainstream media, been well received by the media, and got all this, gone forward with the police, gone forward. And, but I'm not being... And then this 60 Minutes reporter had the nerve to never personally speak to me. He received all my information via email and police statements and all this evidence, and then he rang all these people that, put up as, people who can verify this, or interview this person about me. These people are making a doco on me. Here's my researchers. They found all the evidence. They'll give you everything you want. Oh, no, he rings them and says that my claims are a bit left field, aren't they? And tries to essentially discredit me. Now, why? And this is a reporter who has, links with, he's been seen to water down certain incidents, and, my research say that he is basically, putting the government in a very positive light all the time. And as far as I'm concerned, 60 Minutes were trying to do a whitewashed version of the VIP pedophile ring story. It was their job to contain the story in Australia. But no, I came along and I blew it open, so I got an abusive email.
So, say, Fiona, let's take about a 3-minute break here, all right?
Yeah.
I need to, I need to take a nature break here, so let's just take a quick break here, everyone. I know we didn't take one at the hour there, but let's take one now. So, everyone, we'll be right back here in just about 3 minutes. All right, welcome back after that short little break, everyone. I still have David and Fiona Barnett. Who are some of the? Do you have any recollections, Fiona, on who some of the top people are in this ring over there?
Yes, as I said, there was several prime ministers. I've mentioned Gough Whitlam and Bob Hawke. Prime Minister Bob Hawke raped me when I was in Canberra in a backyard in a zucchini patch. I know it was zucchini season. It was at the end of Gough Whitlam's term, and so I was definitely 5. And another VIP is Paul Keating, Prime Minister Paul Keating. He likes to rape dead boys. I was 8, and I was called to a beach in the Sutherland Shire, a very remote beach back then, Kurnell Beach.
Necrophiliac,
and
then,
Paul Keating.
Necrophiliac,
huh?
Yeah, necrophiliac. Oh, absolutely. He's also gay, but he's also a necrophiliac. Now, I have to close his windows. He's also a necrophiliac. People have to understand that just because you're gay doesn't mean you don't have sex with women. and doesn't mean you don't have sex with children, you know, like some people like women, kids, animals, rape, you know, men, they don't care, you know. So anyway, Paul Keating, now I have to say, here's the media. Now, people, you know, don't believe things unless they're in mainstream media. Well, I think it was New Idea, a magazine over here, that featured an article on Paul Keating, and if anyone can find it, everyone's looking for it. And it featured an article about Paul Keating travelling to Thailand to have sex with boys. And so that was in the mainstream media. And what I witnessed him doing was, I was called Leonis Petrascus, Dr. Leonis Petrascus. He took me to Kurnell Beach in the daytime, and we met early in the morning. And Paul Keating had somehow murdered a 5-year-old boy with fair hair, and he was buried in a shallow grave on a deserted beach. And Leonis Petrascus, as a doctor, was called in to fabricate the cause of death. And I think I overheard, I was told to dig there, so I had to dig this poor boy up. And it was very distressing when I had to, for the first time, answer questions to the police about it. But I had to dig him up, and while I was digging him up, I heard them saying things like, you know, Leonis Petrascus told Paul Keating, "Oh, don't worry, mate, I'll deal with it, I'll fix it, I'll deal with it," you know, this sort of thing. I'll clean it up, sort of thing. So he was doing a clean-up job, we call it. And they were going to fabricate cause of death as blue-ringed octopus sting. And I saw Leonis Petrascus take the boy's body. It was limp. It took it down and wash it in the ocean. And then I saw the ambulance called, and police were already there, I think. They'd cordoned it off or whatever. But, you know, so the police were complicit as well. Not many police were there, but, you know, a lot of Sutherland Shire police were complicit back then. And so that was Paul Keating, and I personally witnessed, and I asked questions about it. We're riding back home in the car to Engadine with Dr. Petrascus, and he said to me, you know, he was having a chuckle saying, "Oh, yeah, that's what Paul likes," you know.
How old were you when this happened, Fiona?
Sorry?
How old were you when this happened?
8.
Why did they want you to take the body up for?
Well, part of the reason is it's traumatic for me. So any opportunity to traumatise me keeps those neural pathways opened by a trauma by Giddinga, keeps them open.
Keeps the programming.
So that's why when victims are constantly re-traumatised every few months, to keep those neural pathways open and to stop you from, you know, having flashbacks and remembering everything properly.
Keeps the programming going, yes.
It's also a thing of...
Keeps the culture monarch programming alive.
It's also a thing of control, because as a kid, when you're having to do all of this stuff, and I've had to do plenty, everything that Fiona's talking about, I've had to do all of that as well. The thing about it is that as a kid, you spend your life in constant fear that you're going to be next. You wake up every morning thinking it's going to be your last day. You spend the entire day thinking it's your last day. You go to bed at night wondering if you're going to make it through the night. It's a constant thing. That's what keeps us all quiet, because we're so traumatized. You can't talk about it. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to remember it.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, even you ask who's the big people? Well, let me give you a clue. Do you really think that it is an accident that 1% of our population owns 98% of the wealth? They're all Luciferians. The difference between a Satanist and a Luciferian is a Satanist is a social group. It's a social movement. They're against the Catholic Church. They don't like organized religion. They don't want repression. But Luciferians, they believe in the Antichrist. And they have been working to make the world into one that is fit for the Antichrist. Look around in every place that everyone is listening to. This world isn't the way it is by accident. It was done on purpose.
Not at all. The Masonic book, I mean, Albert Pike says right in there that Lucifer is their god.
Yeah. As a kid, I have to say, people call this, people call this, satanic ritual abuse. I don't like that name. I say ritual abuse because I don't remember the word Satan being used as a kid. I really didn't hear it. It was Lucifer, and I call them Luciferians, and I just call it ritual abuse because there was no... Satan to me is some kind of pop culture image thing. It's like, Anton LaVey, it was all theatrics, and, he's standing there with women on dog leashes and things like this. I mean, naked. I mean, it was just, and I think that was all part of the propaganda to turn this into a joke and make it incredible. They go, oh, Satan, what, someone in red tights and a pronged fork or whatever. No way. This is, and look, when people talk about, they think Satanists or coven members are people who, wear gothic outfits and encircled pentagrams around their neck and whatever. No. As Jack Johnson, whose family basically built Virginia Beach over there, and he came out of, this high-end stuff, he said, those people dressed in black with black fingernail polish and all this sort of stuff, he said, they're just attention seekers. They're not the real ones. He said, it's the well-dressed people in suits who go to church and they wear, the women in their floral dresses with their nice gold jewellery and not a hair out of place and butter wouldn't melt in their mind. They're the ones to be afraid of. They're the Luciferians. And they are very, very powerful and very scary.
We were killing kids over and over and over every Saturday night. But on Sunday, my family and I were in church and my parents were the loudest. That's what ends up happening. It's, and that's the reason why, you speak of Anton LaVey. Anton LaVey came out as a Satanist because he was a joke. He was working with Colonel Aquino. Colonel Aquino broke away from Anton LaVey in 72. The reason why Aquino broke away is because Aquino is a Luciferian. And everyone thinks,
it's a real deal.
Interviews, he's wearing that stupid garb. He looks ridiculous. He's a joke. It was all done as a joke. Because first of all, like to mock God in any way they can. But the other thing too is once you start thinking, and yes, Rabbit Hole, a Satanic Ritual Abuse Survivor Story is my book. But that name was chosen by my publisher. When I wrote the book, the extended version is on my website. The extended version that I worked with under for years was Confessions of an Antichrist. But my publishers wouldn't let me publish it under that name because they said it would scare people and no one would read it. And so
it would attract people.
Satanists. Satanists. Satanists aren't the problems. Luciferians are the problem.
Yeah, Satanists are nothing. That's nothing.
They're a joke. They're a joke. They're just people who have been hurt by the church and hurt by society. Doug Mesner / Doug Masico / Lucian Greaves, who's this head who has brought to Florida school children satanic literature, and they built a 8-foot statue of Baphomet and all of that. He's a joke. He's a joke. He's meant to be a joke because everyone focuses on it, and they're sitting there saying, we care about humanity and we just think that Christians are bad and we believe all this. That's all fine and good, but it's all BS.
So PR.
The ones that what they're attracting are all the people who have been hurt by the church and hurt by society. Doug Mesner, who has a face that would scare small children, he's mad. But come on, you sold your soul to Satan. You didn't ask him to fix your face. He's a joke. He's a joke. The whole thing is a joke. It's meant to dismiss everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Talking at the break, and we're both talking, and we're both angry. I'm angry. I've dealt with this for over a decade. It has ruined every aspect of my life. The only things I have in my life right now are the things I have fought for. Every day I have fought for it. And that's just the same with Fiona. Every day. Not fun. They're saying, those Hampstead parents, the mother, she just wants attention. That's what I get told.
Oh, God. Attention
Yeah.
seeker. You're just an attention seeker.
Yeah, I'm just an attention.
You know
Well,
what?
let me tell you, the attention is fun. It's wonderful. Can't you hear it in my voice? I'm having a joy with it.
Yeah. Yeah. People, I tell you what, there are attention seekers out there, David. The attention seekers are people like, someone I know who started up, who says, I'm a recognised child abuse whistleblower, and starts up Facebook pages saying, child abuse whistleblower page and all this sort of stuff. And yet when I turn around and I say to these people, and they're writing on our coattails and they think it's all I don't know, they're the ones who like the attention, and they think, and then I have these people who say they're advocates and whatever, and they become these control freaks, and if I ask them to do one little thing, oh no, I can't do that today. Yet they're out there, they're the ones looking for attention, and they give us a bad name with their attitudes, and they, I don't know what they think we're getting out of this. They seem to think that the media attention, all this sort of things, are fun or we enjoy it. No. My going to the mainstream media and so forth, coming out, was my last resort after my career and everything was destroyed. Everything was destroyed in my life. If I had a choice now, I would be advising parents of special needs children on, education, for their children, and this sort of thing, and doing cognitive testing, and the thing that I was good at and enjoyed and whatever, and I would have a quiet life somewhere. I did not want this nightmare circus that my life has become in the last few years since I went before the Royal Commission. I didn't ask for this at all. And I didn't ask to be having to move house again now, and I'm going to lose 50 grand that I don't have, just selling and buying a new house and expensive moving and everything, and the stress and everything. This is not fun. I don't know what people think this is. This is not a party. And I've got victims. The worst thing is when, David and I were talking about victims, and I don't know what it is about victims. I started getting a bit passionate, and I've never been this heated in a radio interview. I think it's because we've got David on as well. But, I'm tired of these victims wanting me to do everything for them. And then when you turn around, and I know Raina Michelson had this problem, when you turn around and, you fight for them, you go into the front line of battle and you're being shot at. And
you get stabbed in the back.
Brave, you turn around.
And you get stabbed in the back. Yeah.
They're not there. And then they tell me things start going well for them. What's happening now? I just want to say this. What's happening right now is in Australia, so these Wood Royal Commission victims or whatever, all of a sudden they're being contacted by lawyers, they're being bribed with money and told you're going to be very rich, and the child services, they want to settle out of court and all this sort of thing. But what you've got to do is be gagged. Or they'll get these other ones who are being paid by 60 Minutes to be interviewed, and these people hand over private information that we've discussed in private, and 60 Minutes hammer me for it, and then they, then the victims, start bagging me out saying, oh, you're a fake and all this sort of stuff. So, I'm getting victims threatening me. I had them on Facebook threatening me, saying, oh, Bill Heffernan wants you to take the site down and all the names down because he's copping flack in Parliament, Now, you know what? Get sorted, the lot of you. I mean, I've had enough. I've been up to midnight, for the last 6 to 8 weeks, counselling people, doing the job of the Royal Commission, doing the job of the police, exposing this corruption, liaising with media, doing all this stuff to the detriment of my family. My kids are like, oh, when's Mum coming back to us, back to Earth? It's horrendous, and I'm trying to renovate in between all of this. And you know what? When I needed someone to come and pack my house up with me, when I need help, I turned around, people whose houses I've packed and whose furniture I've even bought and given to them, not one are here. Not one person is here helping me. And I have had it up to here with victims. I've had such good victims witness. I paid for a plane ticket to fly to Sydney for another press conference because one of Bob Hawke's victims was coming forward, the daughter of his architect. And I booked a hotel for us. I was going to pay for her hotel. I did all this last minute. No, I'm not coming. I don't want to jeopardise. I'm in a good place now, and I don't want to jeopardise my home or my job. And here I am. I've lost everything 10 times over.
They're so frickin' pamby. And they all, in America, they all want to be called survivors. But they all want to run in bed and hide under their covers, too. That's not a survivor, people. That's a victim. If you don't, the reason why I got involved with this, if it would have just been me, if it would have just happened to me, I would have let it all go. But all of these victims were just like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. Don't give a shit that it's still happening to kids even now. Today, kids are being gang raped. They are being forced to kill kids. They are being traumatized. And survivors, I won't even work with them anymore. I won't. Because you can't depend on them. The only thing you can depend upon is the minute things get hard, they will turn on you.
They do. They turn on you. And then what they do is they don't take my advice. They say, oh, we want you to do this. So I do all this amazing stuff. I get stuck in the media that hasn't been in the media after 25 years of people's efforts. You know, I get this happening. I get people talking. I get Parliament House angry at me. I get them, you know, complaining and whinging to Bill Heffernan and whatever. And then the moment they're offered the first payout or whatever, they're like, oh, pull all the names down. Oh, no, you've got to pull the names down now because everything seems to be going well for them now. You know, and I'm like, you don't understand. This is not how it works. You know, so they want me to fix everything. They just want to fix. You know, they want a quick fix.
For themselves. The only thing they care
Very
about
selfish, most of them.
And they don't care about what's happening to other people. It's all about them. What they do, the thing that makes a victim, the biggest victim, is that they're all a bunch of narcissists. They all want the glory, but they won't put themselves out there. They won't put themselves out there. They won't come forward. When you do get them forward, they won't stay out there. And the minute they can profit by throwing you under a bus, they will. Every time.
That last one is what I'm familiar with. You know, I mean, 60 Minutes paying victims of stories and the government now paying people off. And, you know, but the deal is throw Fiona under the bus and we'll give you this money. And you know what? They're going, yes, okay.
Say, Fiona, I had a question I wasn't able to get to earlier. Do you know who Steve Vizard is? I guess he was somebody that come after...
Stephen Vizard?
Yes, Stephen Vizard.
Oh, yeah, he's a famous entertainer here.
Oh, well, somebody was just wondering if he might have been in that ring too or something.
I haven't heard his name come up before.
Okay.
If they are famous, if they are making money, if they are high in the political field, in some way or another, they're involved. Because they could where they are without being involved. And the higher they're up, the more they're involved.
Yeah. And I mean, how do you think someone who can't... St. David.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's the cutout because of the time difference. I was just going to say, how do people think that someone who can't sing, dance or act wins an Oscar? How the hell do you think that happens when you've got all these actually really good, talented people struggling at the bottom? There is the casting couch. You're either born into it, you know, and you know, you get a leg up that way, or you have to be raped to get anywhere. I mean, John Todd / Collins said that, you know, everyone in Star Wars, every single actor in Star Wars, every actor had to have sex with Lucas. All males and females, everyone.
That's what Corey Feldman is saying. Is that Corey Feldman is saying that the only way to get famous as a kid in Hollywood is to let them rape you over and over and over. Just let them rape you. And then
That's right.
And let me point out, Corey Feldman is not the only one who is talking about Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen's wife came forward, and they're releasing the documents where she told
Denise Richards
has come forward publicly and said Charlie Sheen is into kids. He's been giving people HIV, you know, and he's running around telling everybody, oh, well, I've been telling everyone I had HIV, but they just went to his girlfriend that he was just dating, and she didn't know. They're all out there. They are the sickest people. And what frustrates me is that everyone is just, I'm so uncomfortable. I don't want to deal with this. I want to look the other way. Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think those kids are feeling when a dick is up their ass? You think they're uncomfortable when they're being gang raped, when they're being forced to kill kids, when they're going through all of this trauma? Do you think they're uncomfortable? And more importantly, do you even care about them?
Yeah.
That's the big question right there. Do you even care?
Yeah.
No, is one of 20 that's coming out in the UK. But do you think anybody is standing up? Do you think anybody is saying that it's wrong? No, because it's a tabloid story to them. They find it entertaining while they're sitting around their dinner tables talking about it, and then they just look the other way. And then they come to the victims and say, well, why didn't you come forward sooner? Why didn't you say something sooner? Why didn't you say when you were a kid? You know? Well, I couldn't have dealt with this when I was a kid. I can barely deal with it as an adult.
Yeah, yeah. They've got no concept of what we go through. They've got no concept of the trauma. They've got no concept of what it takes. It nearly killed me to go through the therapy to undo what Giedinger and Kidman did and Petruscus did to me. It nearly killed me because it had a physical impact on my body, as in my heart. See, I was flatlined as a kid. They actually stopped my heart as a kid. And then when you go through the therapy, you relive the whole thing, but back to front. So I relived, and my heart was mucked up. I mean, I've already had a heart attack when there's no risk factors in my family background, and I've had a stroke already, and I get vertigo, reliving when I had to relive everything. I got vertigo instantly from it all because that's what they did to me. They spun me, and they physically cause your brain to split. And so when my brain reintegrated,
it's the very reason why I can't swing on a swing. I can't sit on a swing. I can't do it. It makes me physically sick to sit on a swing. And as far as killing me, they used to drown me all the time. It was fun for them. I always got drowned. They were constantly drowning me, and then reviving me, and then drowning me again. It was wonderful. Yeah. And what they end up...
Oh, yeah, we've had a fun time, folks. It's really fun being a victim. We're real attention seeking.
Yeah.
That's all we do it for. Yes, I'm attention seeking. David,
because I love the attention, Yeah.
Yeah, but David, I am an attention seeker. I'm seeking to draw the authorities' attention to the crimes committed against me and the many children I saw murdered and raped.
Well,
I am an attention seeker.
The unfortunate part about it, Fiona, is that you should just, this is blunt, but just stick your fist up your ass and turn around in circles. You'll get farther. Because nobody will hear. No one will do anything. The cops don't want to hear. If people come in and they talk about it, the first thing they do is call the hospital and lock you up and drug the shit out of you.
Yeah, they do that to people.
They want to hear it. So there's nowhere for anyone to go. And right now, at this moment in time, it's so prevalent. It's so prevalent. I really do believe we're at the end. We're at the last days. And the final test that God is giving us is that now all of our eyes are being opened. We are all seeing abject evil. And if you turn away and turn a blind eye, you might as well tell yourself to fuck God, because that's what you're doing. Because God doesn't love Jews. He doesn't love Christians. He doesn't love Muslims. He loves children. That's why they go after children, because children have always been God's favorite. And you turn away, stop going to church. Stop telling people you're a Christian. Stop telling people you care, because you obviously do not. And you will be judged accordingly for that. You turn a blind eye back against God, and it doesn't have good consequences. And when you get the consequences from it, you'll only have yourselves to blame.
Yeah. I completely concur with that, David. I believe we are in the end times. and I believe that, you know, calamity is just around the corner, and I believe people will be judged on how they respond to victims like us and our testimonies. And with social media, there's no excuses. People can do their own research now. People can find the truth. You have to sort through a lot of garbage, but you will find the truth if you go looking for it. And people, you know, it'll be too late soon. I believe that a new Passover's coming. And this time, instead of, you know, painting blood over our door lintels, we're going to be marked invisibly. And I know there's stories in the Bible where those who, you know, God said to an angel, those who are weeping and mourning for what's happening, for the ritual abuse that was going on underneath the temple. He said, you know, those who are mourning for the state of society back in ancient times, he said, go and put a mark on them. He said, everyone else, kill them, slaughter them. It's what they deserve. And that's what's coming, folks. I can tell you now, a new Passover's coming, and you're going to be judged on how you react to child abuse. And it's not pleasant, and I didn't write the rules, but I know that this is coming. You know, there is a God. I've seen evidence of a God, and God is not Lucifer. God is not Anthony Kidman. God is not Giddinga, right? God is not the rock stars that you worship or you know, the politicians, you know. He's real, he's there, and he's coming soon. And this time he comes back, he's not coming back as gentle Jesus, meek and mild, you know, lamb. He's coming back real angry.
It's not about love this time. It's about wrath. It's about wrath. And
absolutely.
That's where you go. And it's not enough
Yeah.
to study and educate yourself. You need to stand. You need to say something. You need to stand. And in doing so, you will actually claim God. Running around quoting Bible verses doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, this whole conversation has.
I'm over it. I know. Look. I've been rejected by every denomination in Australia. I've been to so many churches. I've had a gutful. I can't even step in one now. They make me sick. They're vile. You know, I'm thrown out of this interdenominational Bible study almost, you know, for daring to talk about this stuff. I had people just start yelling at me. You know, like I'm trying, no, they don't want to know. But look, don't come to me in a few years' time when it all hits the fan and, you know, you know, people have predicted things like they're going to nuke America or Russia and China are going to invade, or, you know, they talk about this Muslim extremist jihad movement, you know, are going to come and slaughter people and behead everyone. And I don't know what's going on, okay? There's just all these theories out there as to what could happen and why, or there's going to be an asteroid hit, you know, Planet X is coming, or, you know, people talk about different things. All I know is there's a lot of really weird weather patterns now. There's a lot of earthquakes. Society's gone insane. Our youth are out of control. The crime rate's through the roof. And it can, you know, something is happening. And I believe in Bible prophecy, and I believe what it says. But I'll just say, don't come complaining to me when it all hits. It's too late then.
All right, hang on a second, David and Fiona. We've only got about 3 minutes left here. So, Fiona, I don't know if you'd like to just say something to end this. And, David, you also. I think you did kind of end there a couple minutes ago, David. But
well, yeah. I just thank you for listening to us sounding off and for giving us a platform. I've never, if you listen to my other 3 radio interviews, I've never been so heated. But, you know, thanks for letting me sort of vent, you know.
Well, you didn't have David on. You didn't have David on with you.
I've never had David before, and you know, I've never had someone at the level that we were abused at to speak to. And, you know, I'm sure probably we'll get some more of this, you know, heat out of our systems and we'll be a little bit calmer next time. But, you know, for every season, you know, there's a time, and it might be time to get angry and get a bit passionate.
Is there something you want to end with, David?
You know, as weird as this sounds, I really would like to end in prayer. I'm
I'll be in that.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
So, Fiona, do you want to say it or do you want me to say it?
Yeah, I'll say it. I don't mind. All right. Father God, I just pray that you be with us and you be with our listeners. Lord, we're inadequate, but we're all you've got. We pray that Satan is bound in the name of Lord Jesus Christ, and every curse hex spell that's been placed against me, my family, the people who care for me, against David, against this radio program and the people behind it. We pray every curse hex spell is bound in Jesus' name. And I pray that you come against our enemies, and I pray that every weapon formed against us does not prosper. We uphold the victims of the Wood Royal Commission and Gordon Myers and those people. We pray for protection from my neighbour who's been employed to harm us. I pray protection from the government, and I pray that even all their advanced technologies are no match for you. And we praise you and we give you thanks because we know that through you there is true salvation. Lord, help us to be a voice in the wilderness. And Lord, we, as angry as we did get today, we care about the victims. And we just pray that you help us to serve you and testify to what is really happening in this world, and to be a voice for those dead children who we feel very burdened with their deaths, Lord. And we just pray that you guide us in what we do, guide me in what I do next, where I live, what happens. I just pray that your angels go before us and behind us. And I pray this message gets out to the people that need to hear it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you both for coming on. I know that there's probably lots more that we can get into, but we just had 2 hours tonight, and who knows, maybe we can get this another time.
Wow.
Maybe we can do this another time, you think?
So anytime you even,
Oh, well, I can set more shows up if you two want. I don't want to go over the same material over and over again, but we do need to get.
Just make some notes. Yeah, just make some notes as to what you'd like us to cover next time, and I'll do it in between packing and moving and everything.
Oh, certainly. Well, thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and be sure to check out my website, paedophilesdownunder.com, spelled with Pedophiles, Down Under. And my Facebook is Pedophiles Down Under. It links to my WordPress site if you have trouble getting there, or my Facebook, Fiona Barnett, and also Give Gordon's Truck Back Facebook site. And just support these victims and help give them, like some are fragile and can't come forward, but some are strong enough to come forward. Just encourage us all to unite, because that's what they don't want, folks. They don't want people like me and David getting together.
Absolutely not. And I just put your WordPress site in there earlier, and I just popped it in there again for the chat room there, and I will also have it in the YouTube video if they ever allow me to put that up.
If I haven't irritated too many people, you can always go to my site, davidshurter.com. SHUR. It has a lot of what I've gone through. I'm getting ready to actually upload on the pages above Fiona's site everything that she's written me. Everything she's written, she has sent me, and so I'm getting ready to upload it to my site. You can check out my book, Rabbit Hole: The Satanic Ritual Abuse Survivor Story. I personally, as much as my publisher hates it, would rather you go to my site, davidshurter.com, and the pages above is the extended version of my book, Confessions of an Antichrist, and it's everything I wrote, and it's free. So free is always better. So
yeah. I'm a big believer in
for money.
Victims should never have to pay twice.
That's just it. No.
Okay. So thank you once again, both of you, and have a good night.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That is the show here. So I'll see everyone Sunday after Vin. Take care and have a good night, and talk to everyone soon. I'm sorry, this is Stephen Roberts, and this has been Cancel Like a Ball on peoplesinternetradio.com.
Time to cancel the cabal. with Stephen Roberts. On peoplesinternetradio.com.